while outsiders have been prone to define Dostum in reductionist terms as a bloodthirsty warlord. As these images make abundantly clear, in the north of Afghanistan, amongst the Turkmen and the Uzbeks, Dostum is not seen as a warlord. He is defined as Baba, that is father, or Pasha, the commander. He is genuinely loved and respected, and amongst many elements of the north, he is seen as the man who not only saved them from the Taliban, but the local boy who can protect them from the Karzai government and any government based in Kabul, which seeks to rein in the freedoms of the people of the north. While Western human rights activists and critics are prone to define General Dostum as a modern Genghis Khan, it becomes obvious that General Dostum has a deep appreciation for the role of Americans in Afghanistan, as best defined by his policy of placing American special forces in a seat of honor by his side during his parades across the north of Afghanistan in November of 2001. And this is the key to understanding General Abdul Rashid Dostum. For all the fact that he is indeed a bona fide ethnic military commander, or a warlord, he is nonetheless a popular voice for secularism and democracy of the very sort espoused by his American allies. The widespread support for General Dostum amongst the Uzbeks and Turkmen that is best personified in this video ensures the US the support of the strategic elements in north of Afghanistan, which is grateful to the US as well as General Dostum for liberating them from the Pashtun Taliban oppressors from the south. In the midst of Dostum's triumphant march across the north of Afghanistan, he was called to the east to lead the final offensive against an encircled Taliban army which is holding out in the city of Kunduz. These images capture the scene that greeted General Dostum as the last Taliban fighting force of the north surrendered to his Uzbek army in the desert at a spot known as Erganek, just to the west of Kunduz. In the desert at Erganek, General Dostum convinced the battered Taliban army of the north to surrender to his much smaller army by threatening them with what he called his death ray, a secret weapon that was in actuality American laser-guided precision bombs that had decimated the Taliban's ranks. To Dostum's amazement, the entire Taliban army of the north, 8,000 fighters, surrendered to his much smaller force, and Dostum's troops were overwhelmed as they tried to disarm and take control of thousands of haggard Taliban and Al-Qaeda fighters who had surrendered at Erganek. It was at this time that General Dostum decided to ship this mass of thousands of Taliban prisoners to his mud-walled fortress lying to the east of Mazar Sharif, known as Kala-i-Jenge, the Fortress of War.
They looked young, they looked well-fed, and they looked fit. They glared out at us from the trucks.
From Pakistan?
So they slowly passed by, and finally they were escorted towards Mazar Sharif, and then we heard Dostum saying, "Take them to Kala-i-Jenge, to my fortress."
While General Dostum takes his troops and heads to Kunduz to mop up, he sends some 400 Taliban prisoners to his headquarters, a fortress in the opposite direction, just beyond Mazar-i Sharif. Kala-i-Jenge The name means Fortress of War, and it looks every part of it. Built in the 19th century, it has a long, bloody history in war-torn northern Afghanistan. Only a few weeks before, General Dostum and the Northern Alliance had recaptured it from the Taliban. But Kala-i-Jangi is a fortress, not a prison. And these soldiers holding these Taliban fighters are not accustomed to handling prisoners.
It's almost inconceivable that you would bring the most dangerous enemy right inside your own headquarters. And yet that's what General Dostum did.
Sunday, November 25th, 2001, begins quietly at the fortress of Kala-i-Jangi in northern Afghanistan. More than 400 Taliban fighters, mostly foreigners, are being held prisoner in the darkness below the fortress. There are no Western journalists here this morning, but an Afghan cameraman captures this scene on video as prisoners are brought out of the basement one by one and searched. Their elbows are tied behind them, and they are seated in rows in the courtyard at the southern end of the fortress. Afghans working with the Red Cross begin registering the prisoners' names as a handful of Northern Alliance soldiers stand guard. It is here, in this courtyard at the southern tip of the fortress, that the lives of 3 Americans intersect. 2 of them are CIA operatives.
One of them went by Mike. The other went by the name Dave. And the 2 of them were inside the fortress interviewing these Taliban prisoners, trying to determine which of them were Al-Qaeda and what their links were to the organization.
Dave is tall and bearded, dressed in Afghan clothes. He is well known to the Afghans, who call him Daoud. He speaks several local languages as well as Arabic and Russian. The agent known as Mike is a 32-year-old former Marine from Alabama, Johnny Michael Spann. He has been with the CIA for only a few years. The 2 CIA agents move through the courtyard, separating particular prisoners to be photographed and interrogated. Then Mike comes face to face with a prisoner he obviously suspects of being a native English speaker. Who is this strange man in this strange place? Spann doesn't know he's interrogating an American member of the Taliban, a man the world would later know as John Walker Lind.
You believe why you've been with you that much? You're willing to get a big deal here.
Johnny Spann was questioning a few of the prisoners, and he asked them the question, why did you all come to Afghanistan? And the prisoner answered, we are here to kill you.
And all of a sudden there was an explosion, at least one big bang. And then nearly immediately heavy gunfire was exchanged. The gunfire became more and more intense, and I grabbed my sat phone and ran. I didn't know then what was going on. I only learned it from that American, from Dave.
A small group of American and British special forces rushed to help.
There's hundreds of dead here, at least. And I don't know how many Americans are here. I think one was killed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And with that, this prisoner jumped on him, and a few of the others also jumped onto Michael and basically kicked him.